Hey guys, welcome back. So I realized I got a little bit too excited in the last video and I forgot to tell you guys exactly how many shares of Scotiabank and what my cost basis is when I bought the Scotiabank stock. So sorry about that. So here it is. I bought 25 shares of Scotiabank at a cost basis of $56.41. And I'll post a screenshot right here in case you don't believe me. I don't know why you wouldn't. I'm the most trustworthy guy in the world, but in case you don't believe me, here's a screenshot. So yeah, anyway, sorry if I made it sound like it's like a huge position or something. It's really not. It's a small-ish position, and the reason why is that obviously I want to leave myself room to average down in case the stock drops any further. So yeah, anyways, that's my position on Scotiabank. But in today's video, we're talking about another very exciting position that I decided to take up. And as you can tell by the title of this video, I bought some CCL calls. So I'm very excited to talk about this one. I'm going to be explaining what's my cost basis, what's my thought process behind it, and why exactly I chose to do all of that. So yeah, without further ado, let's jump in. So actually, before we jump in, let me just rant to you guys a bit about a little experience and story that I just went through. So about a year ago, I requested an RBC to open up the option to trade options on my account. I know that kind of sounds like a pun, but yeah, I wanted them to enable the option to trade options because that's not enabled by default. So I had to fill in a bunch of paperwork, fill in a bunch of forms certifying that I wasn't an idiot. Now that part is debatable, but I certified that I wasn't an idiot, and then I sent them the forms. So I waited about 2 weeks until they sent me back an email, and the email was like, a case has been opened that requires your attention. Now I thought that they would just flip on a switch and enable it right away, but apparently I was wrong. So they sent me back this email with a phone number that I had to call. So I call them. And then basically I reached a representative, and the rep told me that he couldn't enable options trading on my account because my net worth was too low. Now this was rather surprising to me because this was about a year ago, so at the time I had about 25,000 Canadian dollars in my direct investing account, which is not the most amount of money in the world, granted, but I think 25,000 is a decent amount, especially for someone like my age, right? Back a year ago, I was 23 years old. I'm 24 now, so back a year ago, I was 23 years old. So yeah, it kind of took me by surprise that, you know, having $25,000 wasn't good enough for them to enable options trading, but I was like, whatever, right? So flash forward another year. So last month, I filled in the similar paperwork and I sent them another request to enable options trading on my account. And then the exact same thing happens, right? I wait 2 weeks. They sent me an email saying that I need to call them. And then this time I wait literally an hour on the phone before I reach a representative. And then basically after I talked to the representative, they told me the exact same thing, that my net worth was too low. Now within that span of 1 year between my first request and this current one, my net worth has grown quite a bit, right? So if I log into my direct investing account, you can see that it's about 50,000, there's about 50,000 Canadian dollars in there now. So my account has pretty much doubled within a matter of a year. Now, not all of that was capital gains. Obviously, I contributed some more money. But my point is my direct investing account is essentially double what it is now. And now 50,000 apparently wasn't enough as well. And at this point, I'm just really getting frustrated with RBC, to be honest. It's like, what do you want, right? If I had $1 million, would that be good enough? I'm sure if I had $1 million invested with RBC, then that would be good enough for them to enable options trading, right? But 50,000, nah, like screw you, right? Bug off. Like that's not important enough to us, apparently. I just sort of see RBC as being sort of like a financial gatekeeper at this point. So they're trying so hard to sort of protect me from myself. Now, I don't need to be protected from myself. I went to school for finance and I've been investing since I was 18. So, you know, I don't have the most experience in the world. I don't have like 20 years under my belt investing or something like that. But I have a decent amount of experience, and I filled in the form saying that I have a decent amount of experience. But apparently they don't care about any of that. So they just want to see that you have a large account. And if you don't have a large account, it's like no options trading for you. And this is really in stark contrast to the way that things operate in America. So I know in America, for example, for a company like Robinhood or something that does allow for options trading, there's only 3 requirements for you to be able to enable options trading. Number 1, you have to have a US tax identification number, so a social security number or some other sort of tax identification number to file your taxes. Number 2, you have to be 18 years old at least. And number 3, you have to be breathing. So yeah, with Robinhood, it's like so easy for you to enable options trading. And that's why something like a Robinhood has so much appeal to the general public, right? It's just because anyone can invest and anyone has an opportunity to get rich, essentially. But with RBC, I just see them as being financial gatekeepers, where they're just standing in front of the way of just, people who have little bits of money, who, don't have millions and millions of dollars to invest. And it's like, if you want this great tool, which is options investing, if you want access to this great tool to potentially amplify your wealth dramatically in a short span of time, well, no, you can't do it. So yeah, essentially what happened was, after they told me, I was just like, I got out the phone with RBC and I went straight to opening up a Questrade account. So I'm sure I'm not the only one who's so frustrated with RBC. I'm just so disappointed in RBC, right? I've been investing with them for so many years and they really let me down this time. So Questrade, it was super simple to open up an account and set up options trading and all that. So yeah, that's why in the future, I think I might be switching more and more into investing with Questrade as opposed to putting more money into my RBC account. So yeah, RBC, if you're watching, I really do hope that in the future you try to remove barriers instead of adding barriers and being a financial gatekeeper to beginners who are just trying to get into the game. I just really hate financial gatekeeping and things like this, because I really do think that it needs to be democratized, right? So investing and personal finance related stuff needs to be open and available to and for the least amount of cost to as many people as possible. So whether you have $1 million to invest or if you have like $100 to invest, it shouldn't really be that different, right? So if you're the guy with $100 to invest, you shouldn't feel like there's a bunch of people in like smoky rooms drinking champagne to like trying to keep you down, right? So I feel like RBC is becoming part of the problem as opposed to being part of the solution, where they're the guys in the smoky rooms trying to keep you down because they're like, oh, you don't have $1 million? You can't invest in options. Bye-bye. So sorry for the little rant, and sorry if I'm getting a little worked up. As you can tell, I'm really disappointed in RBC, but anyways, that's not what you guys are here for. You guys are here to talk about CCL options. Now, before I begin talking about the options themselves, so let me just quickly explain what options are and summarize it in the quickest way possible for those of you who might not understand what options are. So essentially, you can think about options as a way to bet on the price of a stock by a certain date. So for example, in this case, I picked up call options that are valid up until January 21st, 2022. And the strike price is at 20. And I paid $4.50 per option, which means that the stock would essentially have to hit $24.50 by January 21st, 2022 for me to break even. So yeah, I'm making a bet that the stock will go up to that point or even higher, hopefully higher by that point. So as you can tell, the stock is trading at around $15 at the time of this recording. So I'm hopefully that'll change by the time that 2022 rolls around and the stock will hit $24.50 or even higher. So yeah, essentially it's like a timed bet. Now you're probably wondering the reasons why I bought call options instead of the shares. And that's because of leverage. So let me explain this the simplest ways I can, right? So let's do some quick math. So for 200 options, I'm able to get them for $900, okay? So I bought 2 contracts, and for those of you that don't know, each contract is 100 options. So I bought 2 contracts. So essentially I bought 200 options. So for 200 options, I'm able to get them for about $900 US. Now, in order for you to buy 200 shares, the stock is around, $15-ish. For 200 shares, you would have to spend about $3,100, which means that for $900, I'm basically getting the same upside as if I spent $3,100 on the shares. So that's a massive amount of leverage, obviously. So, think about you're trying to move a rock, right? I'm using like a really long bar to like try and move the rock as opposed to using a really short bar and moving a giant heavy rock. Now, what's the catch? Now, obviously there's got to be a catch, right? So the catch is that options expire. So again, as I said, if it doesn't hit the desired price by January 21st, 2022, which is in this case $24.50, if it doesn't hit that price, then the options will essentially be worthless. Well, actually, in between the strike price, which is $20 and $24.50, the options won't be necessarily worthless because the options will still have some a value to it. But yeah, assuming that it doesn't hit 20, which is more accurately speaking, if it doesn't hit $20, which is the strike price, by January 21st, 2022, the options will expire worthless, and I would lose 100% of what I put in. So there's a time limit for this, right? In case that wasn't abundantly clear already. So with the shares, you essentially don't have a time limit, right? You can hold shares for as long as you want to. And in fact, some shares you should probably hold forever even when they pay out dividends, and you just let the dividend roll in and you never sell the shares. So shares are meant for you to hold for a really long time versus options. You're not supposed to really hold them. I mean, you can, but it decays with time, right? So because options have an expiry date, the closer you draw to that expiry date, the less the option is worth. Because that time starts running out. It's called theta decay. So it will literally start rotting in your hand the longer you hold an option. So you're not supposed to hold options for too long. So the point is that options expire. And if it doesn't hit your desired price by a certain date, well, tough luck. I'm not going to get any more into the nitty gritty of how options work. In case you're still unclear of how that works, I'll put a link down in the description to an article explaining how options work, and you can read up upon that on your own time. So yeah, I won't get into the details and the mechanics of how options work, but let me just explain my thought process on why I chose to buy the options instead of the shares. The first thing is that with a company like Carnival, in my opinion, they're either going to make it or they're not. They're either going to survive or they're going to go bankrupt. So by not making it, I mean they just completely go bankrupt, in which case that the shares are worth zero anyways, right? So no matter whether you bought the options or the shares, if they go bankrupt, the stock's going to zero. So whether you're a shareholder or an options holder, you're done, right? So it's zero. So the downside is capped at zero. And if you hold the shares, it can very well go to zero if you're wrong. So the downside is you lose 100%. Now the upside though is different, because what I said about the leverage and everything, if you hold calls, then the upside is a lot more massive with calls than it is with shares. So I'm sitting here thinking, I'm watching the stock price just kind of decline. It's pulled back quite a bit in the past few days. So I'm sitting there watching the stock kind of go down a little bit day by day, and I'm thinking, hey, maybe instead of buying the shares, I'm just gonna buy the calls, right? Because if I'm right and the stock goes back to, let's say it was a $40, it's a $40 stock in normal times, right? So if I'm right and the stock goes back to $40, I double my money, right? So I more than double my money if I buy in now. But if it doesn't work out and they go bankrupt, no matter if I'm a shareholder or I'm an options holder, then it'll go to zero. Now I bought really long dated calls, right? So these calls don't expire until January 21st, 2022, which is 1.5 years out. So my thought process is this: if they don't recover and become profitable again by 2022, then they will probably go bankrupt. So if they're shut down and the Rona flares up again, and they're forced to shut down for, like, let's say all of 2021, which is a nightmare scenario, then I think most likely they will go bankrupt, in which case, if you're a shareholder, you would lose everything as well. So that's my thought process, where if you're gonna bet on the success of CCL, you might as well bet big. So that's my opinion anyways. And small side note, usually this is a dividend stock, right? Usually Carnival Cruise has dividends, but obviously they've cut their dividend down to zero recently because of the Roni situation. So yeah, it's not like you're getting any dividends if you're a shareholder anyway. So usually one of the scenarios where you might want to hold like shares instead of long dated calls is that with shares you're entitled to dividends, versus with calls obviously there are no dividends. But in this case, since they cut their dividend, there's no dividend either way. So whether I buy the calls or I buy the shares, I'm not going to get any dividends, so I might as well buy the calls. So that's another small reason why I decided to buy the calls. But why am I so bullish on CCL though? Well, as you know, in normal times this is a $40 stock. So I'm not sure if you've ever been on a cruise or not, but if you've ever been on a cruise, you know there's many ways for them to make money outside of just the ticket prices, right? So after you buy the ticket, you go onto the cruise, there's many ways that they can extract more money out of you. So there's bars, there's casinos, there's expensive buffets, there's entertainment and games, there's like a bunch of stuff. on the ship that you can spend more money on, right? And sometimes they'll include like a basic buffet, but then you see people going to the more expensive buffet, and you're on vacation anyways when you're on a cruise, right? So you're not gonna be like cheap and skimp out on expenses if you're on vacation. So you're gonna see people going to the expensive buffet, and you're gonna be like, I want that too. So what are you gonna do? You're gonna cough up the money to go to the more expensive buffet, right? So this is a very profitable business model in normal times. Now, of course, with the Roni situation, this is the absolute worst nightmare scenario that could happen. This is absolutely the worst thing that can happen to the cruise industry. So yeah, it's unfortunate that Carnival got tangled up in all of this, but I'm just saying, if we get a vaccine in sometime in 2021, which is definitely possible. We've been making some good progress in terms of the vaccine from the reports that I've read. So yeah, I'm betting that sometime probably in 2021 or 2022, we will get a vaccine. And then once we have a vaccine, then people will be more inclined to go on cruises, and cruises can start back up once again, right? So anyways, that's my hope. But yeah. My point is that I don't really see a scenario in 2022 where the stock is where it is now, right? So it's either going to zero by 2022 or it's going to back to like $40 a share. So I'm hoping that it goes back up to $40 a share, and if it does, I will make some money. And if it doesn't, hey, I gambled like $900. I can afford to lose $900, right? So it's, $900 is a lot of money, but it's not the most amount of money in the world, and I could financially recover from this. I'm not gonna be like, Tiger King, or me like, I'm never gonna financially recover from this. So yeah, it's not gonna be like that, right? So I can afford to lose it if it doesn't go my way, but if it does go my way, I can potentially more than double my money. So that's why I bought the calls, just because I want that leverage. I'm just gonna leave the video here, just a quick update to update you guys on what's my latest moves in the stock market. Be sure to hit the like button if you enjoyed the video, and consider subscribing if you like the series. Be sure to follow me on Twitter and Instagram, links down below in the description as always. And with that being said, I'll see you guys in the next video. Bye-bye.